أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وليستعفف الذين لا يجدون نكاحا حتى يغنيهم الله من فضله والذين يبتغون الكتاب مما ملكت أيمانكم فكاتبوهم إن علمتم فيهم خيرا وآتوهم مما لله الذي آتاكم ولا تكرهوا فتياتكم على البغاء إن أردنا تحصنا لتبتغوا عرض الحياة الدنيا ومن يكرههن فإن الله من بعد إكراههن غفور رحيم. In the previous verse, Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala mentioned in regards to making nikah, that all those that are unmarried make their nikah, and those that had slave girls, slave boys make their nikah as well if they have the ability of getting married. And we generally worry about the financial aspect of it. Allah Ta'ala says, you make nikah, yakunu fuqara. If they are poor, Allah will make them independent out of His grace. Now further Allah Ta'ala here mentions, وَلْيَسْتَعْفِفِ الَّذِينَ لَا يَجِدُونَ نِكَاحًا حَتَّى يُغْنِيَهُمُ اللَّهُ مِنْ فَضْلِهِ. Those that do not have the ability of making nikah, then they should remain chaste. They should preserve their chastity. حَتَّى يُغْنِيَهُمُ اللَّهُ مِنْ فَضْلِهِ. Until Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala makes them independent out of His grace. When Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala blesses them and now they have the ability of getting married, then now get married. وَالَّذِينَ يَبْتَغُونَ الْكِتَابَ مِمَّا مَلَكَتْ أَيْمَانُكُمْ فَكَاتِبُوهُمْ إِنْ عَلِمْتُمْ فِيهِمْ خَيْرًا. And do the contract of kitabat with those people that seek, those slaves of yours that seek to enter into it if you know of any good in it. This refers to a particular contract that used to take place between the master and the slave. You get different types of slaves in Sharia. One slave is referred to as a mukatab slave. So therefore Allah Ta'ala here says, فَكَاتِبُوهُمْ. Enter into the contract of kitabat. What happens in this particular contract is that the slave comes to the master and he tells the master that I want to purchase my freedom. So the master will then stipulate a price that you have to give an X amount of money, and if you pay this amount of money to me, then you are freed. So the slave then goes, he works, and he comes and pays the money to the master. If he is able to pay the full amount, then he is freed. And if he is unable to free that amount, then he remains as a slave. So here Allah Ta'ala says, enter into this contract of kitabat with those slaves of yours who seek to enter into it. In alimtum fihim khayra. If you know of any good in them, you know they will be able to buy their freedom, then allow them to buy their freedom and let them be free people. وَآتُوهُمْ مِمَّا لِلَّهِ الَّذِي آتَاكُمْ. And give them from the wealth of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, which Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala has given you. This could have two meanings. One meaning to this is that you know that the price that you are asking for example, is 10,000 rands. And this is also a lot for the slave because a slave has absolutely nothing. So he has to go out and work. So reduce that amount. Don't make it 10,000. Make it easy for him. Tell him, pay me 4,000, pay me 3,000 rand and purchase your freedom. So make it easy for the slave. Or the second meaning to this is that the wealth that Allah Ta'ala has given you, from that wealth of yours, you have to discharge zakat. One of the avenues of discharging zakat, wafir riqab, in slavery, where a person wants to purchase his freedom. So you can assist that person with the wealth of zakat. So referring to that, Allah Ta'ala says, grant them from the wealth of Allah, which Allah Ta'ala has given you, give them that zakat money and let them purchase their freedom. وَلَا تُكْرِهُ فَتَيَاتِكُمْ عَلَى الْبِغَاءِ إِنْ أَرَدْنَا تَحَسُّنًا لِتَبْتَغُوا عَرَضَ الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا. Allah Ta'ala further says, and do not force your female slave girls upon prostitution if they intend remaining chaste, so that you will acquire the goods of the worldly life. Meaning that those people that had slaves in the past, many a time they would use those slave girls, na'udhu billah, for prostitution. And from there, a person will earn an income from there. So here Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala says that the female slave girls that you have, don't force them upon this evil. If they intend remaining chaste, there were those slave girls that were absolutely pious, those slave boys that were absolutely pious. After working the entire day, at night when everyone would go to sleep, they would now stand on the musalla and they will make the ibadah of Allah Ta'ala. One slave girl, when the master came to check at night, when she was the ibadah of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. So this was a secret between her and Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. So So the moment the master found out, she made dua, Ya Allah, now I don't want to live anymore. That this was a secret between you and I. Some insan, some human being has found out about this. Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala granted her death, Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala took her away. So Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala prohibits from getting involved in this evil. But Allah Ta'ala further says, وَمَن يُكْرِهُنَّ فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ مِن بَعْدِ إِكْرَاهِهِنَّ غَفُورٌ رَحِيمٌ. That whoever forces these slave girls, then verily Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, after them being forced, Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala is most forgiving and Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala is most merciful. Meaning the master forced the slave girl to get involved in this wrong. For that slave girl, Allah is most forgiving, Ghafurur Rahim, and Allah Ta'ala is most merciful. Allah will forgive that slave girl because she had no option, she had no choice in the matter. But as for the master, Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala will take him to task. We'll continue from here, inshallah.